At 6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order for the North Augusta Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for June 6, 2023. As you can see, our
Make sure your mic's on,
it's on a little bit
close to it.
As you can see, our chair and vice chair are out today, so I will be leading the meeting tonight. First thing is a roll call. Kevin Skaggs.
Bill Burkhalter.
Jim Newman.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the May 2nd meeting. Is there any amendments that need to be made there?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved. Thank you. All right, so next we have to confirm the agenda. We have 4 applications to hear tonight. Is there any changes needed?
No
for the
changes.
agenda? Okay, thank you. We'll consider the agenda confirmed. Sorry, the first application we're hearing is ZV 23-006. Request by Rachel and Marcus Kovar for variance from the maximum front setback in Table 3-3, Article 3, Dimensional Standards of the North Augusta Development Code. The application affects a proposed residential construction on an approximately 1.42 acre portion of TPN 006-5-01-001, Zone R5, Mixed Residential. So, I guess, anything you want to say about the project?
Yes, sir. This is an application. It's zoned R5, which has a maximum front setback of 25 feet. The applicant is on Knobcombe, close to Martintown Road. This shows you the parcel it's on. You can see the pond there, and the applicant proposes to subdivide this parcel into this 1.42 acre parcel. And once it's subdivided, they want to build their residence on it. They want to be close to the existing pond, and they want to be away from Knobcombe. Typically, in an R5, you have interior roads. You're not on one of the main roads such as this. So that is the reason for the variance, is to allow them to build back on the pond on the 1.42 acres that's subdivided out of that R5 parcel.
We hear from applicant now?
Yes, sir.
Applicants,
Ms. Kovar?
I guess I need to swear you in first. Rachel, you swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you. State your name and address.
Rachel Kovar, 1936 Bolin Road.
Okay. Anything you want to say about the project?
Obviously, we're looking to build our home here on the property that I was raised on, and have the setback from Knobcombe Avenue so that our children can play in the yard and not be at risk for serious injury from all of the traffic going to North Augusta High School, as well as enjoy the pond that has been, I grew up on, my family has always grown up on. Since relocating back here from Birmingham, Alabama, we're planning to build our home now here on our family property.
Any questions y'all have? I think the application was very thoroughly written, so I've answered all my questions there, I
Every
think.
question should be answered.
Okay. I think now we start the public hearing part of this particular application, so I'll call a public hearing order here. And does anybody want to speak out for or against this particular project in the audience? Go back to the, I guess, the Google Maps view. This one?
If he's going to speak, he needs to come down.
Can you make it down?
I'll bring it to you.
We can come to you.
We'll come to you. How about that? Well, we need to be recorded.
So all the folks at home
And I need to swear you in too. You raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
All right, thank you. State your name and address, please.
William Maddox, 1882 Knob Cone.
Okay.
Now, that parcel, does it go down to the creek? Now, I know that they have got a tractor in there and have cut back to the creek. Well, that's what that was. Now, right after that, and it's gonna go back 20. Yeah, I know where the flags are, 'cause that's fine. If you're going back that far and you got that clearance, yeah, I understand, because they are building supposed to put a sidewalk in too. All that's gonna do is cause trouble, but I mean, okay, that's fine with me, 'cause that'll be good for y'all. And I see the safety for the children is needed if they get out there and play, because right now, I can't get the police to even patrol it, 'cause it's a highway now of speedsters. I used to write tickets in Mississippi, and I'd have a heyday on that road. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak for or against? Okay, hear none, thank you, and that was helpful, and I'll close the public hearing on this particular application. So then we'll go into the consideration part of it. And so now I'll read the rules, what we have to consider. Per North Augusta Development Code 18.4.4.5.4.2, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall hear and decide appeals for variances from the requirements of Article 3 zoning districts and Article 13 signs when strict application of regulations would result in unnecessary hardship. A variance may be granted in an individual case of unnecessary hardship if the Board of Zoning Appeals makes and explains in writing all the following. Number one, an unnecessary hardship exists. Number two, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. Number three, the conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. Because of the conditions, the application of this chapter to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. Number five, the authorization of variance will not be a substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Harm to the character of the district may include structures that are significantly out of scale and the creation or potential for the creation of excessive noise, light, traffic, or incompatible late-night activity. Number six, in the approval of an application for, six has to do with signs. We're not talking about signs. Number seven, the Board of Zoning Appeals may not grant a variance in the effect of which would be A, to allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district, B, to extend physically a non-conforming use of land, and C, to change zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. 8, if the unnecessary hardship is self-imposed by the applicant, the variance should not be granted. 9, the fact that property may be utilized more profitably should a variance be granted shall not be considered grounds for a variance. And 10, in granting a variance, the Board of Zoning Appeals may attach to it such conditions regarding the location, character, or other features of the proposed building structure or use as the board may consider advisable to promote the public health, safety, or general welfare. So in summary, we've got to go through all these 10 questions and find an affirmative of all 10 in order to grant the variance. If any one of them fail, then it kind of stops right there and the variance will be denied. Okay. So question number 1. An unnecessary hardship exists. Staff notes say the applicant states that after relocating back from their home from Birmingham, Alabama, the applicant wanted their children to be raised on a home site that has been and their family for nearly 200 years. However, the safety of the children are their greatest priority. Nopcone Avenue is a high-traffic thoroughfare for 1,500-plus students and faculty of North Augusta High School. The road with a 35-mile-per-hour speed limit is not a low-traffic neighborhood street. The applicant's son chasing a loose baseball into Nopcone Avenue in front yard only 25 feet deep would be a serious risk for injury and not death. Additionally, the applicant states that their two moderate-sized vehicles would not be able to fit in the driveway measuring only 25 feet, which in turn would cause their vehicles to extend into Nopcone Avenue and disrupt the flow of traffic to North Augusta High School. In parentheses, they said this SUV measures 15 feet and the Ford truck measures 18 feet. The safety of families visiting the applicant's home would be jeopardized as they would need to utilize the narrow shoulder of Nopcone Avenue for street side parking, therefore restricting our ability to entertain in their home that they've invested in. And another staff notes that the subject property is situated between West Martintown Road and Nopcone Avenue for two high-volume traffic areas. Any thoughts on this?
I don't have any problem with that.
No problem.
No problem with me either on that one. All right, question 2. There are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to that particular piece of property. Staff note says the applicant states that their 1.42 acre lot is situated on the 2.5 acre pond on the historic homes site of Elm Grove. The 48.48 acre plot owned by the Mackey family is not only a retired dairy farm, but rather is acreage that it has farmed, hunted, and most importantly, a place to call home. The applicant's home has been designed to embrace the history of the family property to include refurbished shutters built in the 1842 for Elm Grove. The lot would be accessed by Nopcone Avenue. The adjacent frontage on Nopcone Avenue is a wetland of overflow water from the dam and the pond. The 340-foot driveway will hug the side of the wetland and provide the children with the appropriate distance to prevent unsafe play near Nopcone Avenue. The applicant expects this driveway will create a secluded home site, allow the children to engage in activities that will prevent them from being close to high traffic volume of Nopcone Avenue. The applicant's children will be fishing in the pond where the applicant fished with their grandfather 35 plus years ago, and the applicant's father fished with his grandfather 65 plus years ago. Staff notes on city's GIS map, there's a pond located near the rear of the subject property with graded terrain near the front and the southern portions of the property with forested areas surrounding the pond. Any comments on that? Any issues?
I'm okay with that.
So, just a question I have is the wetland kind of driving the, all along the side, and you got to go basically to get past the wetland to build the home? Is that the way it works? Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, so that's kind of help, the reason why you gotta go 300 and something feet. Right, okay. All right, I'm good with this one.
Yes.
Okay. All right, number 2's good. Number 3, the conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. The applicant states that the existing home sites on Nopcone Avenue are substantially larger than the 5,000 square feet as outlined in R5 zoning. These larger lots allow for larger homes on safer home sites, while R5 rezoning requires homes to be situated no more than 25 feet from the road. 3 closest dwellings on Nopcone Avenue sit greater than 100 feet from the road. The 2,722 square foot home at 1882 Nopcone Avenue is approximately 145 feet from the road. And the 5,224 square foot home at 1884 Nopcone Avenue is approximately 120 feet from the road. And the third example is the 2,459 square foot home at 1886 Nopcone Avenue is approximately 100 feet from the road. This distance between the homes and Nopcone Avenue not only allow for larger owner-occupied homes, but more so it allows for larger front yards to ensure safety for children and families. Of note, the 56.02 acres located adjacent to their 1.42 acre property is undeveloped.
I'm good with that one as well.
Problem with
No issues with that one either, okay. All right, question 4. Because of these conditions, the application of this chapter to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. The applicant states the unreasonable restriction requiring the home to be situated no more than 25 feet from Knobcone Avenue will put the children at risk for serious injury and or death, as it is unsafe for them to be 25 feet or less from Knobcone Avenue. It's important to note the volume of traffic on Knobcone has, the city of North Augusta currently talks of adding a traffic light at the corner of Knobcone Avenue and Martintown Road, a road with traffic volume that warrants a potential traffic light 1,100 feet from their driveway is a road that is unsafe for children to play in their yard and enjoy their home. The applicant states that it would be unrealistic to expect their family to enjoy their home when they are concerned for the safety of their children. With very few home sites in North City of North Augusta with a secluded pond, the applicant states that they are privileged to be able to raise their children in this environment. However, without direct sight vision, they would not be able to allow their children to fish or enjoy outdoor activities near a body of water. Situating their home within 25 feet of Knobcone Avenue will require the applicants to leave their home/porch to provide supervision for the children. Additionally, as before mentioned, a home site 25 feet or less from Knobcone Avenue would prevent their applicant's family from enjoying both their home and the secluded family pond. The applicant states that it would be a shame to invest in a home North Augusta only to be limited in being able to fellowship or entertain in the home simply for the lack of safe parking in the driveway. So the condition would restrict their use of the front yard, basically what it is. Any issues there? I'm good with that one. Question 5. The authorization of variance will not be a substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Harm to the character of the district may include structures that are significantly out of scale and the creation of potential for the creation of excessive noise, light, traffic, or incompatible late-night activity. Staff note says the applicant states that the 3,785 square foot home is expected to be approximately 340 feet from Knobcone Avenue. The surveyed lot size is 1.42 acres, or 61,855 square feet, compared to the required 5,000 square foot for R5 zoning. By building a larger than required home on a 61,855 square foot lot, they were reducing the density of the property. The custom designed home will take the space of what potentially could account for 12 homes under R5 zoning. As previously mentioned, the 556.02 acres located adjacent to the 1.42 acre property is undeveloped. The acres located directly across from the property on Knobcone Avenue are currently undeveloped as well. So, have any issues with question 5?
No questions.
340 foot setback would not do any harm to the character of that area. Question 6 is not applicable because it has to do with signs. Question 7, the Board of Zoning Appeals may not grant a variance to the effect of which would be to allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in a zoning district. Staff note says the single-family residences are allowed in the R5 mixed residential zoning district. Item B, to extend physically a non-conforming use of land. Note says the variance does not extend a physically non-conforming use of land. C, to change zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. Note says the application does not propose a change to the zoning district boundaries.
No problems there.
No issues with question 7. Question 8, if the unnecessary hardship is self-imposed by the applicant, the variance should not be granted. Note says the applicant states the hardship is created by the high volume traffic on Knobcone. It's a safety reason. Any issues there? Okay. Question 9, the fact that property may be utilized more properly should be a variance granted, should not be considered grounds for a variance. Note says that the fact that the property may be utilized more properly is not the primary purpose of that request.
I agree.
Agree.
Yes.
Okay, question 10 says, in granting a variance, the Board of Zoning Appeals may attach to it such conditions regarding the location, character, or other features of the proposed building structure or use as the board may consider advisable to promote the public health, safety, or general welfare. And note says that there would be, I guess this would be one condition, is this variance, if granted, this variance will apply only to this property and the architectural/construction drawings as submitted.
Mr. Chairman, if I might add another one there. You might want it contingent upon that it applies only to the boundary survey from Marcus Kovar and Rachel Kovar, recorded in Plat Book 64 at page 800, so that it ties it to what you see there, and there's no it wouldn't apply to any of the rest of that parent parcel.
So repeat that again. Oh, you read them?
Marcus P. Kovar and Rachel M. Kovar, boundary survey.
Okay, oh, I see, okay.
Yeah.
And it was, is there a number on that, or do we need to, just say, can I?
Plat Book 64 at page 800.
Okay. All right, so we'll have two conditions. You need to add any more?
No, sir.
No further. Okay, so all the questions we're good with, so I will read the motion. Okay, based on the findings previously discussed and voted on, I move that application number ZB 23-006, Kovar House on Knobcombe, a request by Rachel and Marcus Kovar for a variance pursuant to sections Table 3-3 dimensional standards of the North Augusta Development Code to increase the maximum front setback be granted with the following conditions, and we have two. Number one, this variance will apply only to this property and the architectural and construction drawings as submitted. And number two, variance applies to the survey by Marcus P. Kovar and Rachel M. Kovar, the boundary survey, and it was tied to Plat Book 64, page 800.
I second.
All in favor, raise your hand. All right, unanimous. You got your variance. Good luck. All right, one down. Okay, our second application is ZB 23-007, a request by EMC Engineering Services Incorporated for a variance from Table 3-9, Article 3, Section 3.8.5.3, Dimensional Standards, maximum front setbacks for the Highway Corridor Overlay District of the North Augusta Development Code. The application affects a proposed convenience store for gasoline sales located on the corner of Edgefield Road and Oscaga Lake Road, 3.42 acre portion of TPN 011-07-02-001, Zone General GC General Commercial, and within the 8C Highway Corridor Overlay District.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. This is, like you said, located at the corner of Edgefield Road and Oscaga Lake Road. This kind of gives you where the subject parcel is there, and this is a portion of that parcel, not the entire parcel. The applicant wants to build a convenience store there, and because typically convenience stores have the gas canopies between the street and the main building, it's difficult to do that and comply with the maximum 90-foot setback. It also has some issues there with traffic maneuverability around the buildings, people getting in and out, and just the overall safety of the site. This is a survey of the parcel, and this kind of gives you an idea of what the applicant is talking about doing there. And other than that, I will let the applicant speak.
Gotta swear you in, sir. Swear to tell truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
State your name and address, please.
Cody Rogers, EMC Engineering. I'm civil engineer on this project. We actually brought another store at I-520 in Jeff Davis before y'all, either early this year or late last year. The reason for the request is very similar. It's actually the same. I believe we had the exact same setback or maximum setback on that other property. With a gas station use, it just doesn't work to have the canopy behind the store, which would be the case if we were to comply with that 80-foot maximum setback. You may be able to squeeze a canopy in that 80 feet, but it would be very unsafe conditions. You have the width of the canopy to deal with. You'd have to consider the circulation around that canopy. And that was ultimately our case last time as well. Parker's takes great pains to actually pave a little bit more than other developers would typically pave for safety of their customers. We typically keep about 40 feet from the gas pump to the front of the building, and then keep another 35 feet from the gas pump to face curb on the outside of the building. So right in there automatically is going to be over 80 feet once you factor in the width of the canopy. That is the primary reason for this request. I'd field any questions that you may have.
I didn't, because I remember the last one, but go ahead.
I was gonna ask you, I'm assuming, pardon me, I'm assuming that there will be accommodations for trucks as well, larger trucks. I mean, I see over, I guess it's on the east side.
Yes, sir. That's diesel.
Oh, okay.
That is truck diesel in the back of the store, or behind the store. And that is a one-way orientation. So you'll actually, the trucks will enter on that north drive, pull through, get gas or fuel, and either park and go in the store or exit, and they'll have the choice to either exit left or right from that point, go back out to Edgefield or Escaga.
Any other questions?
Quick question for Tommy. This gas station is allowed.
A fuel, yeah, correct. Gas station is allowed there. A gas or fuel stations for trucks is allowed there. A heavy truck repair would not be, and that is not in their business plan or any discussion. So the use would be an allowed use in the overlay district there. That zone's general commercial.
And DOT's been involved and consulted.
They've signed off on our traffic study methodology. Traffic counts have been collected, and that traffic report is really due any day now, within the next week or two.
That's it?
All right, that's it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, now I'll start the public hearing for this particular application. Does anybody in the audience want to speak for or against this particular project? Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. State your name and address.
My name is Sumit Patel, address 901 Ashfield Road, North Augusta. My father owns the convenience store and gasoline station right by the corner of Ashfield Road and Ashwalek Road. Sir, on that road, we have already, including my gas station, 9 gas stations. Recently, in February 2023, the Quick Trip, big gas station, he opened. He hit me with a 50% of sale, inside and outside. I have only one store. I'm a local businessman. Been there for last 9 years. It's gonna hit me hard, sir. And it's hard right now for running the business with all these big people. I'm the only one small one.
But you understand that there's a gas station can be built there regardless of if it's Parker's or me. I mean, so, you know, we're just here for the variance, to move their canopy back a little bit. So,
That's all I
sorry to
have
hear
say,
that, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else want to speak for or against? You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
State your name and address, please.
My name's Mike Baldy, 471 Pine Butte Lane, North Augusta, South Carolina. I live approximately 1.5 miles from the site, Oak site. Just give me a quick second. Printed this on the inkjet, so stuff got smudged. So just give me 2 seconds. When I pulled up the project summary that was submitted to y'all, and it's public information on the city's website, it talks about the NADC 18.4. And I think you just read it a few minutes ago, they can get variances for Article 3 and Article 13 for the signs. And the next sentence says, a variance may be granted to an individual case of unnecessary hardship, and the Board of Zoning Appeals makes and explains in writing all that follows. But what was missed from that, from the North Augusta Development Code, the Development Code was written to keep everybody in the same line for design purposes, building purposes, and all that. But the line that was missed out about, that was sent out to, I'm assuming y'all, it says a variance is not a right. It may, that's the key word, may be granted to an applicant only if the applicant established compliance with the hardship criteria in South Carolina Code 629-800. So this is not governed by North Augusta, it's governed by the state and their things. So I kind of went down through the thing, the unnecessary hardship. My first question is the staff notes, it says that the 90-foot setback in the Highway Corridor Overlay District would not allow an automotive fuel canopy to be constructed between the primary building and Edgefield Road right-of-way, which is the normal site layout for a convenience store. Did 2 hours of searching last night on the internet. Could not find the definition for a normal layout a convenience store. It's not there. Y'all have been to Hilton Head, I'm sure y'all have. The canopies ain't in front of the stores. The facade of the store that faces the main road is not where the canopies are anywhere. But I'll get to the Parkers in a second. The second one, it says there's no extraordinary exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. They give just a layout, what the land looks like, slight drop off of the road, basically flat. So building the way our development code says it should be built, there's no reason they can't build the convenience store in front of the canopy and have the canopy behind it. Citywide, talking about the exceptional and extraordinary conditions to this property, citywide there are 454 properties zoned general commercial. Of those, 324 properties or in the highway corridor overlay district. So if variance is given on this, next time, let's have 300 foot, have a big parking lot in front of it. The reason the development code was written like that is so you wouldn't have a parking lot in front of all your stores and convenience stores. Number 3, the conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. The vicinity of Edgefield Road, every property from Pinecrest to Murphy Village that is in the city are zoned general commercial with a highway corridor overlay. Approximately 2.3 miles that's in the city, they're all zoned the same thing, and they're having to design their businesses, whether it's a fast food restaurant, shopping center, or just anything else, any kind of business. The only one up there was the PD, which was for the Walmart development, which they have to go by a completely set of rules that's decided on by the Planning Commission and City Council. And this is not, in Section 3, does not restrict the use of the property. Planning Director stated to the gentleman up here, and he spoke, a gas station can be built there. We're just talking about design of the piece of property right now. Section 4, because of the conditions, the applicant of this chapter to a particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. We're not restricted any utilization of the property. There's a zero. The only condition that affects this property is zoning. That's the only condition that affects it. The property is not prohibited for a gas station or a convenience store or a shopping center, fast food restaurant. None of that's prohibited. It's a design setback, and City Council in 2008 said we want the city to look like this. That's just plain and simple there. Number 5. Let me get to that. Give me 2 seconds. Authorization of a variance would be a substantial deterrent to the adjacent property to the public good. Jump down to the bottom. Would it create excessive noise? Don't know if it create excessive noise. Would it create light? Yeah, because I'm sure their parking lot is going to be extremely lit up. Traffic. I drive past that lot twice a day. That's the only reason I'm here. In the morning between 7 and 9 o'clock, the traffic backs up on Muskog Lake Road for a left turn movement, signal to go south on Edgefield Road, backs up past the building right there. You see the department where you get your driver's license at. It's backed up past there. And then on the way home, between 4 and about 7 o'clock, traffic backs up on Edgefield Road all the way almost down to Harbin Lumber. That's and those are your 2 access points. The third access point that the gentleman from Parker says they've been talking with SCDOT, that turn in from that radius in that corner, the city will not approve that according to our development codes. It has to be so many feet from the intersection. And I've never seen the state of South Carolina give a curb cut in the middle of an intersection. You can just mark that one out. That one's not going to happen. I mean, that one, according to the state and according to the SCDOT rules, that won't be allowed. And we can't allow it either because it says it in our development code. Now the last thing, Section C, approval of an application for a variance for the provision of Article 13. That's the signed ordinance. Well, it doesn't affect this one, but with the 10, with the staff report, it says the staff recommends a condition of approval that the site be developed as conceptually shown on the sketch plan. Sketch plan shows 2 freestanding signs on that piece of property. See, it does not allow 2 freestanding signs on any property. The Board of Zoning Appeals may not grant a variance that effect which be to the to allow the establishment of a use of non-otherwise permitted in the zoning district. We've all stated they can do a gas station there. 2, this is the big one, to extend physically a non-conforming use of land. If it's approved, you're approving a non-conforming, it's not a use, you can approve it. But let's say Parker's 6 months down the line, they come out with a new biscuit. It's out selling Chick-fil-A. They want to add a kitchen on there to the side of the building. This right here, they can't add on to it. It says you cannot add on to a non-conforming use of land. That would be where the building is stationed. It's a non-conforming where the building sits. And you're not changing the district boundaries on showing on the official map. You're not doing that. It says, if the unnecessary hardship is self-imposed by the applicant, the variance should not be granted. Does the applicant own the piece of property at this stage? I can't find record in the RMC office in Aiken County that they own the property. So they're applying for a variance that the only way they're going to buy the property, they get this variance. But if they get the variance, before they buy, that's why they're here. They know it's going to be a non-conforming use. So they bring the hardship on themselves on that issue. And Section F, the fact that the property may be utilized more profitably should a variance be granted should not be considered grounds for a variance. They're saying, you know, a gas station can't make it. Pretty much his direct words. The canopy's not up front. We can't make it. Can't make it. And I'm going to save the G to last. Did a little search on Parker's. You can pull this up or I can let you see it. This is 598 Red Bank Road, Goose Creek, South Carolina. The side of Parker's faces a 6-lane road. One side. The other side faces a 5-lane road. The back of the store, which actually fronts both roads, has an entrance with a sidewalk to the existing sidewalk. And clearly in the picture, the canopy is behind the building. So they're following Goose Creek's development code. That's not the only one. Let's drop on over to Ladson, South Carolina. The side of the store faces a 5-lane road. Back of the store, the side of the store, a 3-lane road. Their entrance to into that gas station comes off a driveway for a public, like a shopping center sort of thing. Another one, 486 Pooler Highway, just outside of Savannah. The side of the property faces a 6-lane road. Canopy's not on the front, facing the big road, just facing a driveway, which they state on that. They're going to be building a private use driveway to serve all those properties. Those properties haven't been subdivided yet. The only reason they're going to do that road is they subdivide. And this past Memorial Day weekend, I stopped at a Parker's, and I think the engineer stated he's from, I think it said Statesboro. We stopped at the Parkers in Statesboro. Veterans Highway is a 5-lane road. Looks like they expanded to 6 or 7 lanes. Parkers faces a 2-lane street on the side. Their canopy does not face the 5 or 6-lane road. If this variance is approved, I humbly ask y'all, it says this is y'all's right if y'all approve it. Gas station there is not going to kill anybody. It's going to hurt other businesses. In granting a variance, the Board of Zoning Appeals may attach it to some conditions regarding the location, character, or other features of the proposed building, structure, or use the board may consider adverse to promote public health, safety, or general welfare. If y'all approve that, I humbly ask you, I looked at their stores, don't make it a 24-hour store. The gentleman across the street at the convenience store, they're not open 24 hours. Country Board behind there is not open 24 hours. The car repo place is not open 24 hours. DOT is not open 24 hours. The lumber yard's not open 24 hours. And also, besides limited to non-24 hour use, I respectfully ask to have 1 hour truck parking, so we won't have trucks sitting there all night running.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else for or against? Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Sure. Mr. Chair, my name is Daniel Ben Israel, 17 West McDonough Street, Savannah, Georgia, 31401. I serve as the real estate development manager for Creighton Parker Companies, Parker's Kitchen. I appreciate the comments that the gentleman shared. I'd like to offer a rebuttal to a few of those statements. The photos that he shared, I will, in fact, say that we do build stores where canopies aren't facing, in some instances, the main street. We have stores, two of the stores that he cited. There are regulations involved that forced us to orient the building differently than we normally would, and those canopies were placed still in front of the store, but the front of the store was oriented differently than we would normally prefer. But I would say that a few of his comments were incorrect. I recently built a store on Hilton Head Island at 430 William K. Hilton Parkway, and that store does face William K. Hilton Parkway, and the canopy for that store is in front of the store, in between the main structure and the 5-lane road section from which we gain access to our site. That's very, very common across our business model. That's how we prefer to build our stores. We respect the regulations, and we intend to develop this store this site in a responsible manner, and we will be an asset to this community. We do have a kitchen in our store. It's called Parker's Kitchen, and we do offer a full-service kitchen with all of your southern goodies in our stores: fried chicken, chicken tenders, mac and cheese, catfish, etc. We have approximately 14 to 16 seats in our stores, in our current footprint, which is approximately 5,175 square feet. So we are a conforming use in this zoning designation. We would not be a non-conforming use, as the gentleman suggested. So that will not be an issue. As it relates to our operating hours, we do operate all of our locations, I think with the exception of one, due to some extenuating circumstances, 24 hours a day. And that would be our desire here as well, to operate 24 hours a day. That's all I have. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Is this very similar to your footprint of what you had at the other location, Jefferson Davis Highway,
Yes, it's identical, actually.
and the same area of square footage on the whole property, roughly the same, or?
No, so I think this site, Cody, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the 520 site is small. I think this site is 14 acres, and we're going to develop for our store just around 5 acres. As you can see, we have a few out parcels there that we'll end up with once the private driveway is constructed. I don't recall the acreage of the other site. 5.5, so this one's significantly larger than the other location.
Any further development would have to go through your office, right?
Yes, sir. We're in the process of reviewing the initial plans submittal for this site, and we met with the applicant earlier this afternoon about the Jefferson Davis site.
Any other questions?
And Mr. Paradise, the only question before the Board of Zoning Appeals is just waiving the 90-foot setback to 80 feet. And my understanding from the engineer's comments was they consider that a safety issue because they can make more separation between the canopy and the main building.
Yes, sir. The only thing before the board is the variance request for the maximum building setback.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd like to also point out that that right turn entrance into the site on Scoggin Lake Road has been removed from the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No, we need to move on. I think we've heard you, so. All right, let's move on. Anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna close the public hearing. We'll go through, the same routine. I don't need to read the whole thing again, but any questions, do I?
That's,
Okay.
that's your discretion.
All right, so you've heard them twice, one, the previous case, and you just read through all 10 of them again, so I'm gonna skip that part of it and go straight to the consideration phase of this. Oh, I'm sorry. Apologize. Okay, the first question is, an unnecessary hardship exists. The applicant states that to comply with the required 90-foot front building setback listed in Article 3, Section 3.8.5.3 of the North Augusta Development Code, the proposed development would be unable to install the automotive fuel canopy and drive aisle between the building and Edgefield Road to allow for necessary vehicular circulation around the site. Proposed development would also be unable to install the necessary fuel storage tanks and drive aisle between the building and Scoggin Lake Road. That would also allow for vital vehicular circulation around the site. Placing the proposed building between the Edgefield Road right-of-way and the fuel canopy would orient the front of the building to face the interior of the site. Placing the building between Scoggin Lake Road right-of-way and fuel storage tanks would also result in the building facing the interior of the site. Locating the building to comply with the 90-foot front building setback would allow visibility of the rear of the building from the Edgefield Road or Scoggin Lake Road, detracting from the aesthetic appeal that is exceptionally important to this in this location, and reduce the traffic captured at this location due to decreased marketability. Complying with the 80-foot maximum setback would also increase the area needed to construct the development and significantly increase the cost of this project. Staff notes that the 90-foot front setback in the Highway Corridor Overlay District would not allow for an automotive fuel canopy to be constructed between the primary building and Edgefield Road right-of-way, which is the normal site layout for a convenience store. And that's been typical for a lot of the gas stations we've heard recently. That's correct, right? The way they're kind of building the gas stations now. You have any issues there? Comments about that? No issues. I'm good with that too. Question 2. There are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to a particular piece of property. Staff notes that the applicant states that meeting the requirement of the 90-foot maximum building setback on this site poses safety concerns for the proposed use as a gas station. 90-foot would not allow acceptable spacing of the drive aisles in front of the building for internal circulation. This is true of almost any property with similar zoning in North Augusta as it relates to gas station uses. Complying with the 90-foot maximum setback would mean that the building would not be facing any road frontage except the private access road, and that would be constructed as part of this project. This reduces the marketability of the site and the traffic captured at this location. Subsequently, revenue potential would be reduced. Staff notes that this parcel is located at Edgefield Road and Scoggin Lake Road with Palmetto Parkway near the rear of the property. On the GIS topography map, the front of the parcel is relatively leveled with a slope and elevation near the center of the parcel from 500 foot to 490 feet. The subject property is sparsely vegetated with low-lying shrubs and grasses present. Safety concerns, that was what I had highlighted here on this particular thing, and that's what that would be the acceptable condition there. You got any notes? You good with that? All right. We're good with question 2. Question 3, the conditions do not generally apply to the other property in the vicinity. Note say the applicant states that these conditions would not be cumbersome for other uses that do not have an auxiliary structure or gas canopy that needs to be located between the building and the roadway/frontage. The maximum building setback values currently in place throughout the city do not allow for safe circulation in and around the fuel canopy. Compliance would be 1, pose safety concerns, and 2, devalue the property. Staff notes that the neighboring property in the north of subject parcel has a convenience store for the gasoline sales with a fuel canopy. The surrounding parcel to the west is undeveloped, and the parcel to the east is public property. The property to the south of the subject parcel is a commercial lumber company. Again, I have noted here, we just precedent set with the other,
One's down the street.
yeah,
Across
and
town.
and again, the safety concern. You have any other issues?
Yeah, no. We've approved pretty much the same
Yes,
concept, on setback lines,
yes.
the safety concerns. Very same ones that were
Okay, so I get,
articulated.
so we're good with question 3. Question 4, because of the conditions, the application of this chapter to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict utilization of the property. Notes say the applicant states that they are requesting a variance from the 90-foot maximum front building setback listed in Article 3, Section 3.5.8.9 of the North Augusta Development Code. The proposed building front will be approximately 195 feet from the right-of-way of Edgefield Road and approximately 195 feet from the right-of-way of Escargot Lake Road, rather than the maximum 90 feet. Locating the building within 90 feet of the property line will not allow the fuel canopy to front Edgefield Road, resulting in inefficient traffic circulation throughout the site and decreasing the site's visibility and marketability. Positioning the building within 90 feet of the property line would not allow the fuel storage tanks to front the drive aisle needing fuel delivery. Not positioning the fuel storage tanks along the drive aisle will also hinder traffic movement within the site. Staff notes that with the required setback at a maximum 90 foot for the highway corridor overlay district, an automotive fuel company would encroach the Edgefield Road right away and would not be sufficient for a drive aisle. The distance of the fuel canopy from the right of way is approximately 195 feet. I think that what would be prohibited is the use as a gas station with a safe circulation. That's kind of what I had, the way I saw it. And do you have any comments about this particular one?
No comments, I'm okay with it.
I'm good with, okay. So we're good with question 4. Number 5, the authorization of a variance will not be substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district would not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Harm to the character of the district may include structures that are significantly out of scale and the creation or potential for the creation of excessive noise, light, traffic, or incompatible late-night activity. The applicant states that the proposed site would be accessed from a private access road connecting Edgefield and Escargot Lake Road, placing the building 115 feet further along Edgefield Road and 115 feet further along Escargot Lake Road, and the maximum front building setback will not have a negative impact on adjacent properties. Locating the building as proposed will significantly increase the circulation through the site and allow the site to function safely. The architectural features of the proposed building and landscaping along Edgefield and Escargot Lake Road will conform to all zoning requirements and will maintain the character of the district. Staff notes that the property is zoned GC/HC, and the property will otherwise comply with the HC requirements. The commercial construction should be compatible to the surrounding properties and not adversely impact them. One of the comments earlier brought up the traffic. Is this going to have a traffic study associated with it or anything?
We're in the review process now. If it trips 50 new trips in a peak hour, which I think it will, a traffic impact analysis will be required.
And it makes recommendations of what the developer has to do to,
Correct.
okay.
In talking with them, there's one in process now for DOT.
Yeah, okay.
DOT requires it as well.
So we can just add that into our comments that they comply to that,
Comply with the traffic study.
traffic study and DOT.
Any other issues with this particular question? We're good, okay, we're good with question 5. Question 6 is NA, that's, sign, so this, they're gonna comply with the sign, this is just for the setbacks, right? This,
Correct.
I'm sure they'll have a sign, but if it's non-conforming, they'll come back for another variance, I guess.
Correct. The sign is a different application
Yes.
process altogether.
Okay. 7, question 7, the Board of Zoning Appeals may not grant a variance to the effect of which would be, A, to allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district. This note say the convenience stores for the gasoline sales are allowed in the GC General Commercial Zoning District. Item B, to to extend physically a non-conforming use of land. The note say the variance does not extend a physically non-conforming use of land. Then item C, to change zoning district boundaries shown on the visual zoning map, and this note say that this application does not propose a change to the zoning district boundaries. Got any issues with this particular questions?
Yeah, 7's okay.
You good with 7? Question 8, if the unnecessary hardship is self-imposed by the applicant, the variance should not be granted. This note say that the requirements to the maximum setback of 90 feet are imposed by the North Augusta Development Code for the Highway Corridor Overlay District, and the hardship is a safety concern and for vehicle circulation too.
Right.
You're good with that? Number 9, the fact that property may be utilized more properly should be, variance be granted shall not be considered grounds for a variance. And note say that the fact that the property may be utilized more properly is not the primary purpose of the request. And again, the safety concern with the vehicle circulation. That's kind of driving all the layout. All right, in granting a variance, the Board of Zoning Appeals may attach to it such conditions regarding its location, character, or other features of the proposed building, structure, or use as the board may consider advisable to promote the public health, safety, or general welfare.
I would propose adding that the applicant comply with the traffic study data that's collected and submitted to the planning department.
And SCDOT requirement.
Mr. Burkhalter, if I may, is the traffic study may have recommendations in there, and DOT may or may not allow those to be installed.
Right.
So could we put the caveat that if they're allowed by DOT in there?
Right.
Okay.
So I'll add traffic study recommendations that are allowed by DOT.
You had DOT complying with DOT and the traffic study, is that what you said, Jim?
No, sir, the traffic study has recommendations, but the DOT has the final say
Okay.
if they can go in or not. And I just wanted the latitude that if DOT said, no, you can't do that, we've, it's their call.
There's another condition that you had in there. The staff recommends a condition of approval that the site be developed as conceptually shown on the sketch plan. Good with that?
Right.
So we just have the 2, is that right?
If I could offer you another one again, I think it's that the variance only goes for the 3.42 acres that this application addresses. It does not go to the entire parent parcel.
So just the Parkers.
Just the Parkers, correct. So that there's no confusion when they start developing the other portions of the parent parcel. If they need to come back to you, they would stand on their own.
Okay, so we have found an affirmative for all 10, so I will read the motion. Based on the findings previously discussed and voted on, I move that application number ZV 23-007 Parker's Kitchen, a request by EMC Engineering Services Incorporated for variance pursuant to section table 3-9, article 3, section 3.8.5.3, dimensional standards, maximum front setbacks for highway corridor overlay district, be granted with the following conditions, and we have 3. Condition of approval that the site be developed as conceptually shown on the sketch plan. Number 2, that they would comply with the traffic study recommendations if allowed by the South Carolina Department of Transportation. And then number 3, that the variance applies to the 3.42 acres per this application. Second, all in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. Unanimous. Thank you. You have your variance. All right. Number 3. My third application is ZV 23-008, a request by AAA Sign Company Incorporated for a variance from Article 13 signs, Table 3-3, in Section 13.8.3.p.I.C.I.IV of Article 13 for a 21.53 square foot internally illuminated freestanding sign. Proposed sign exceeds the maximum square footage allowed and internal illumination standards allowed in the downtown and Georgia Avenue overlay district. The application affects approximately 0.17 acres of TPN 007-10-28-005 Zone D downtown and within the G Georgia Avenue overlay district. What can you tell us about this?
Mr. Chairman, this may be one of the more inquired about variances that we've had in a while because of the location where the signs were at Georgia and East Buena Vista. But basically, Wells Fargo, where I'm sure y'all all know where it's at, wants to change or needs to change its signage. Let me get here. The one on the left is the current sign. The one on the right is the sign that they would like to go to. Their current sign, of course, is more than what is allowed. It's non-conforming and is an internally illuminated sign. They are requesting that the new sign be allowed to also be internally illuminated. And they're also requesting it to be 21.53 square feet, with 20 feet being the max. So they're a foot and change over. If you look at the Wells Fargo signs, the two of them side by side, maximum of 24 square feet, and we don't allow internal illumination. I do want to mention another section of the code that you may not be as familiar with. And that's section 13.2.6 allows a non-conforming sign to be refaced, repaired, repainted, or removed for repair and remounted, so long as they get a permit for it. So, yes, they're asking for a foot and change more, a smaller sign. They're asking for it to continue to be illuminated, but at the same time, they could reface the existing sign. They could take it down, rework it, reface it, put that same sign back up, and it would be allowed. So just so you know that was a possibility for them. We did have that discussion, and Wells Fargo, for various reasons, wanted to go with the smaller sign rather than keeping the larger sign.
Okay.
Now, when you mentioned smaller sign and larger sign, the existing sign,
The one on the left is the existing sign, and the one on the right would be the new one.
and the existing sign is not illuminated,
It is illuminated
okay,
internally.
20-something.
No, I'll let the applicant answer that. I don't have that square footage offhand.
But you're getting, the design of the one they're seeking to put in omits most of that bottom, just sort of blank
Correct,
area.
correct.
So this application is for two things, the size and the illumination.
Correct.
Is it all or nothing on both of them, or are we consider, so you need kind of consider both?
You have to
This
consider
question.
both. You could grant one, deny the other, you could grant both. You know, that is y'all's decision.
Right.
Yes, sir.
If they cut a foot off the bottom of it and lowered it, then would it be conforming other than illuminated?
If you, well, a foot and a half. And I'll let Miss Bobby explain some of the challenges with the standard size signs and that kind of thing to you. But yeah, if you reduced it by a foot and a half, you would get it.
Is there any other signs in the area that's illuminated, other than, I guess, gas station?
There is on West Avenue. There's internally illuminated signs there. You've got the bank over there. You've got Providence over there. I'm not sure if, excuse me. I'm not sure about University, the old University Hospital place. I'm not for sure if they've got a freestanding or not. But in that, and I'm not for sure about Gary's, if that's an internal illuminated.
I know this was before your time, and this is just more of a curiosity. Why not internally illuminated signs? I mean, what's the negative, or why was that? I would think it'd be cleaner, because can they stick two light bulbs on the outside and shine up on it?
Correct, and then you had maintenance issues with that. But with an externally, doing away with the internal illumination, you've got, the lights aren't as bright. It's not, it's more of a quaint atmosphere and kind of a quietening of the signage. You can argue illumination a bunch of different ways. One of the things with external illuminated signs is you got spotlights that shine up. So you could say, yeah, we'll give you the foot and a half, but it's got to be externally illuminated. Fully, within the board's discretion. So you put spotlights out there, and then you get people come by and step on them and
Correct.
break them or move them. I always think of those as be kind of a maintenance nightmare. But I'm not in the sign maintenance business.
Right.
Is there a measurement, I'm looking in our materials here, from the top of the present sign to the ground? Just from the picture, it appears to be substantially taller than the one that they're
It is.
proposing. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And did you-
In fact, I had a conversation with the applicant and expressed, my concern, would this Wells Fargo sign be high enough, because there's those hedges there. And, they felt good with it, so. But I wanted to ask that question before they changed it and had a problem.
The other ones, even though it's higher, appears to block the view. I guess that's the reason you asked the question. If it's lower, it might block the view a little bit. I'm assuming that's the consideration for the height.
I was looking at the hedge next door. If you look behind the signs, there's a hedgerow there.
Right.
And that was my question. And the way it's laid out, when I look at it in the photograph, it looks like it'd be all right.
Yeah, I got other questions. I guess I'll ask the applicant. Ready for-
Yes, go ahead.
Anybody want to speak for the project, on behalf of the Wells Fargo or the sign company? You swear in, swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so.
I do.
Thank you. State your name and address, please.
Bobby Stevens, 2015 West Side Drive, Augusta, Georgia.
What can you tell us about all this?
Well, the original sign's about 11 feet tall, and it's 31 square feet. You only measure the sign portion of the sign, so we're going 10 feet less. Code requires 20 square feet, but the smallest sign that the national company that builds Wells Fargo signs, the smallest sign is 21.5. So they took consideration and went ahead and lowered it, but you can't measure that base part. That would put it over square footage. The only thing that measures is up above the base. They meet the height requirement, which is 6 feet, right, in the downtown area. It's 5'7". With this particular model, and this is a national, it doesn't have to be custom built. It's already tooled in the company's system. So they went with the smaller sign that would get as close to conforming as possible. They hate to give up the internal illumination for obvious reasons. They already have it. Refacing, we were talking about it earlier. They don't do those curved faces anymore. That would run into another whole custom deal. Their new look is the white letters and the red background, not the gold, but that wouldn't really enter into either one. But it would be so cost prohibitive to make the curved faces, take it down and retool it and all that stuff. So they've gotten as close as they can to the ordinance.
Doesn't the building have illuminated wall signs?
They do.
They do on the other side of the building.
I think it's all three sides. Is that right?
Not sure.
This is kind of set back. Gary's is lit, and so is Greg's Gas Plus straight across the street.
But I thought it has Wells Fargo on the wall, on the side of the building.
I know they've got it on West.
It's on Georgia Avenue,
And
and there's some kind of Wells Fargo sign, I think, on the building.
Buena Vista side.
Yes. Well, yeah, so,
There's one facing Gary's? I don't think so. I was just there, not 2 hours ago.
there was, I remember, I think they got illuminated signs on the building.
They do. I mean, their signs are channel letters on the building.
Yes.
Their concern is people walking up from the parking lot going to the ATM. Any light provided. When we were talking about externally illuminated signs, our biggest concern in the sign business is the landscapers. If they hit it, it could be shining anywhere. It's never shining at the sign after you finish. It's just not a good consideration unless it's just, that's what's required.
All right, so if y'all changing this sign, are y'all changing the ones on the building?
No, no, they're only asking, this one is really, really in bad shape. All, the faces are all cracked. It's really bad.
Tommy, so is, back to the sign part, the base is not considered, even though it's the same size, same everything, is not considered part of the sign?
Correct. And it can be 8 feet in height.
So they can make the base bigger and the word smaller.
They can make it taller. Can't make it wider because that sign has got to fit on any base.
And the present sign is or is not internally illuminated?
It is.
It is?
It is.
It is.
Isn't that amazing? I pass by it every day.
Right, right.
Or, and a lot of times at night. And still
Well,
can't have
right
something.
now it's so badly discolored and matte finish where the UV rays have just killed it over the years, but it's cracking, it's terrible.
So here's a question for Tom, is that sign, is it's not, illumination is not allowed, so I guess the sign portion of the code was adopted in 2019, is that right? That's what,
There was revisions in the sign code in 2019. Basically, my understanding was to put us in compliance with a U.S. Supreme Court decision about signage. It basically said if you have to read it to regulate it, you're regulating speech. They've changed that ruling now.
so at one point in time, they got somebody allowed them to have a sign that was illuminated.
Correct.
start with. But the requirement that said you can't have illumination came after the sign was put up, is that right?
I would think so.
Okay.
All right, so I'm not trying to be let's go back to the sign again. So that's all is that one sign, the red's part of the sign, or is it just the letters that's considered part of the sign? Because the sign that's there is 8 foot wide and 6 foot tall, so that's 48 square feet. Where's the 20 come in? The 21.
That's,
So according to my drawing right here, it shows it's 95 inches wide and
that's an old one, Tony.
73 inches tall. You go there, see, 95 inches wide, 73 inches tall. That's a 50 square foot sign.
My drawing says 67 inches tall, 63 and 3/8 inches wide.
And-
The actual
and
sign
this is-
part is 4 feet 1 by 63 and 3/8, which is 5'3", which puts it just a little over 20 square feet.
Apparently, we didn't get the right
Well-
copy
Yeah, if I
and
could
put
take
it
a,
in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause that's your copy too, Tommy. You can have mine if you want it.
Thank you.
yeah, if you don't,
Make sure I'm.
Any more questions for Ms. Stevens right now? We may have some more as we go through all this question.
Okay.
All right, so at this time, I want to start the public hearing for this particular application. Does anybody want to speak for or against this project? Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Please state your name and address, please.
My name's Carl Purvis. I live at 909 Georgia Avenue, North Augusta. It's not really why I came here, but since we're talking about it, I was at a meeting not too long ago. I believe you were there, where we had talking about the downtown development of Georgia Avenue, what they was hoping to see happen down there, which was basically, like you said, make it more of a quaint area with tables outside and a walking area and getting traffic off off the road and everything. And I'm just curious, that I know that was a separate group with their own agenda, looking a little long term, but was this illuminated sign with the size and everything, would that fall into kind of the vision of where they want to go as well?
The meeting you were referring to, if I remember correctly, had to do with traffic calming and pedestrian access downtown.
But it was, yeah, but it was also about the kind of businesses they wanted to see there and, you know,
Right.
future development and trying to get parking off of Georgia Avenue. And I just wondered, you know, with the bright illumination in the sign, does that give to, you know, the kind of thing they were looking for? Plus, you know, like you said, I drive by it every day, but I don't remember exactly where that sign's sitting. But if it's wider or lower or something, is it gonna affect vision of people pulling out of, say, Gary's on the Georgia Avenue or going up, you know, just questions.
So you bring a good point. So the next development code, future, is it gonna change anything?
Actually, I don't believe so. There was one draft, that actually would prohibit, would not allow freestanding signs at all downtown. That has since been revised, and freestanding signs will be allowed. I don't know exactly offhand what's going to be allowed in that district. I just don't have the book in front of me to look at. So I can't tell you what's there, but I remember making that change
You don't remember-
because there was some discussion about freestanding signs downtown.
You don't remember anything about the illumination part of it, do you?
I don't.
That it?
Yeah, just questions.
Thank
Like
you.
I said, I was just sitting here. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brought up a good point. Anybody else? Okay, y'all
Maybe,
close the public hearing part of it.
go ahead, that's fine.
Did you want to ask a question before we give it into this?
Yeah, I sort of, Jim got me looking. I may have divided this wrong, but I took the inches wide and the inches high, not including that gray base. And it looks like it's 7.91 feet by 5.91. I'm coming up with 46 square feet. That's the part that's throwing me.
Well, they're not, and that's where I'm confused. The silver, they're not considering a part of the sign.
Yeah, I didn't count that.
Okay, so, well, here it's actually, the new one, it was in that, it's 49 inches. So that would be 4 foot. 49 and a quarter.
Okay.
4 foot, and then basically 5 foot, so you're 20 right there, 21 square feet.
I must have had some wrong.
Yeah, if you go off what's in the
It might be,
slide, it's-
yeah. All right.
All
That
right.
would be a condition we need to add. You
Yeah.
get the right drawing.
I think, yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah, I did.
All right, we closed the public hearing, so I was not gonna read through all 10 questions again. I don't think we need to. All right, you've heard them 3 times for those of you who've been here the whole time, so I won't do it again. So we'll start the consideration part of it. Okay. Question number 1, an unnecessary hardship exists. The applicant states that the ATM at Wells Fargo Bank is open 24 hours, and this sign provides additional light for customers as well as make it easier for them to find the bank and be able to utilize the ATM. Staff notes that there's a walk-up ATM on the northern side of the property in close proximity to the existing freestanding sign.
So, I got a quick question. So there is an ATM on that side by the sign, not the over by the drive-through?
I'm not for sure where the ATM is. I think it's on the northern side.
Which is-
The ATM is what I'd call the back of the building.
Right.
Which is the drive-through.
Where the drive-throughs are.
This one wouldn't be over there near that.
Okay.
Okay. I'm confused with the giving extra light.
Well, I struggle with this question. I'm gonna tell you up front. This is one of them that tripped me. Again, what is the hardship? I still say they got illuminated signs on the building now, on wall signs on the wall. The ATM is well lit. I drove through the Gary's parking lot and looked over there last night. It is bright. I don't see the hardship. I mean, yes, you'll be losing a non-conforming feature that you're getting away with now. I don't, and like we said, the vision, what they want is not illumination, and it's clear. And you're not grandfathered anything when it comes to illumination, so I struggle with this one, the hardship. They have, I mean, you can, the building is identified, you can see it at night, and the ATM is pretty well lit. So I don't know what the rest of you feel like, but I had a,
Well, that's,
problem
like
with
I'm
this.
saying, this is nowhere near the ATM, in my opinion. So
I
I
don't-
don't see where it's giving extra light, what's there is working. You know, the letters on the building yellow,
yes.
then here it goes, it says that we're getting away from yellow. We're going to white, so we'll be here next month, just speaking out loud, to go over the white letters on the building. I'm just, this is gonna continue on from one side to the other.
I say the purpose of the sign is not to provide light for the ATM.
Yes, I agree
And
with that.
I think they can, it would be good by just not having to illuminate the sign and the sign right size, and I think lighting wise, I think they're good. But, I don't know what the rest of you guys feel, but I had a hard time giving this one a thumbs up on this particular question. I don't see the hardship.
I'm kinda with you as well. I mean, I understand the signs and changing it,
Yes.
but, they're gonna change logos every 10, 20 years. They used to have the little horse and carriage thing.
So
It's gone away.
my question, Ms. Stevens, is if they didn't have the illumination, would they still do the sign without the illumination?
I really can't speak for them.
Okay.
I told them that they needed to send a rep here too,
Mhm.
and we're not building this sign. So if your consideration is that it be non-illuminated, that certainly is your, is your prerogative, and they would have to adhere to that. Like I said, it's being built by a national sign company that is their vendor, and we're the installer.
Okay.
So, I made it as clear as I could that this is very important that y'all be here so you can
Okay.
speak. So, I don't know what to tell you.
All right, thank you. So, I guess for size-wise, I'm good with the size. I'm okay with going up. I see the hardship there because they got a kind of a standardized sign. I'm good with size, but I'm not good with illumination, so as far as the hardship goes.
But they can still, regardless of problems you have with the exterior lights, they can still exterior light it and be conforming, correct?
Correct, sir.
So I'm a no on internal illumination. Go ahead.
Discussion, and you can put that in there too, right? That they're allowed to have exterior light
Yes,
if they want to
yes.
choose to come off the existing electrical. And they could do that, get an electrician to install those.
You don't need that in a variance, do you?
No, that's allowed by
This is-
right.
This is, yes.
Just something I'll tell them.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'm good for size and no for internal illumination as far as the hardship goes.
I'm good with that. And yes, I just pulled up Google Maps. They do have Wells Fargo on Buena Vista, Georgia, and Gary's side on the building.
So, Mr. Burkhalter, what do you?
I'm okay with the sign replacement itself, but not the illumination.
So,
Not the internal.
yeah, so the internal illumination is going to be a no, and if we were just discussing that, we would stop right here on the illumination part. So we'll discuss the rest of it regarding the size, is that right? Can we do that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so question one is good for size. Question two, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. The The applicant states that the sign is tucked away back from the building, is not easily seen anyway, so illumination helps with the visibility of the sign as well as being smaller than the old sign, which is already small enough. So according to, with respect, staff note says that the existing freestanding sign at Wells Fargo is 31.1 square feet, which is 9.57 square feet difference in size with the proposed freestanding sign of 21.53 square feet in the variance request. So again, we're not talking about the illumination anymore. Size-wise, I'm okay with that.
Correct. So it's actually bringing it lower to the ground.
Yes. Question, you good, Mr. Burkholder?
I'm okay with it.
All right. Question 3, the conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. The applicant states that the other properties are not banks and not open 24 hours as the ATM is, and it is well known that people use the ATM for hours and safety is a concern without a lit sign. Staff notes that the surrounding properties operate as a restaurant with drive-through sales, several retail establishments, and a convenience store with gasoline sales with illumination at each establishment. Most of those notes are about the sign, but the size is they're coming in more compliance with the code, just a foot and a half short. I mean, too much.
All this stuff was done a long, long time ago, as far as the illumination of the existing signs across the street, Gary's.
They would be faced with the same question if they would replace their sign,
As
the way I
of
see
right
it. So I'm good with number 3 regarding size.
I am too.
Question 4, because of the conditions, the applications of this chapter to a particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. And the applicant states that the current sign is considerably larger in height and square footage. So they are making concessions to get closer to the development code. Again, I think the size were good on that one. I'm okay with that question before any size. Y'all good?
Yes.
Number 5, the authorization of a variance will not be a substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Harm to the character of the district may include structures that are significantly out of scale and the creation of a potential for the creation of excessive noise, light, traffic, or incompatible lake night activity. The applicant states that the allowance of approximately 2 square feet and internal illumination will not be detrimental to any of the surrounding businesses, as their business is not a bank and the sign is away from all businesses. Staff notes that the restaurant next door to the subject property closes at 8, while the convenience store to the east of property is open 24 hours with continuous illumination. Again, we're not talking about illumination. I don't think a foot and a half excess
Correct,
square
but
footage is gonna
also
be a
the-
detriment.
But also the Wells Fargo sign on the buildings are illuminated.
Yeah. And you good, Mr. Burkholder?
I'm okay with it.
Question 6. Since this is signage, I gotta read this one. In the approval of an application for a variance from the provisions of Article 13, signs regulating the size, height, and appearance or location of a sign, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall also find that no alternative signage solution that complies with the provisions of Article 13 is available and would provide adequate visibility, recognition, and understanding. The applicant states that the sign is the smallest sign that Wells Fargo has without going to a completely custom-made sign, which is non-economical for approximately 2 square feet. Wells Fargo feels it is unnecessary since the copy of the sign is much smaller than the 20 square feet allowed. The height of the sign conforms to the requirements of the North Augusta Development Code. I'm okay with an extra little bit of square feet. You good? Question 7, the Board of Zoning Appeals may not grant a variance to the effect of which be A, to allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district. Notes say freestanding signs are allowed in downtown or Georgia Avenue overlay district zoning, but internal illumination is not allowed in the downtown zoning district. B, to extend physically a non-conforming use of land. The variance does not extend a physically non-conforming use of land. C, to change zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. This application does not propose a change to the zoning district boundaries. Since we're not considering illumination anymore, I'm good with this one.
Yeah.
Question 8, if the unnecessary hardship is self-imposed by the applicant, the variance should not be granted. The applicant states the location and use of the property warrant the variance requests. We talked about the hardship of the illumination, the size, I think is, we're good with. Is that right? We're okay with this question?
Yeah.
They're going, they're,
The sign is basically deteriorated.
Yeah.
That's just a factor of time.
Yeah, but at the same time, they can refurbish it and get everything they want.
right.
So, you know, it's,
Have to go out to
Size-wise, I think we're good there.
I mean,
Question-
this one all looks like it's a piece of white thing with vinyl on it. I tell you, it's a white face with vinyl adhesive.
We good with question 8?
I'm good.
Question 9, the fact that property may be utilized more properly should a variance be granted shall not be considered grounds for a variance. The staff recognizes that the property is operated as a financial institution and the question is not primarily based on profitability of the sign. And I know that extra 1 or 2 feet of sound area is gonna, I think we're good at that question. It's gonna impact.
Okay with that.
All right. Question 10, in granting a variance, the Board of Zoning Appeals may attach to it such conditions regarding the location, character, or other features of the proposed building structure or use of the board, use as the board may consider advisable to promote the public's health, safety, or general welfare. Notes say this variance is, if granted, will apply only to the property and the sign details as submitted.
The correct sign that was submitted.
Is
21.
this a revision or a,
So on your slides, you've got the bigger one, but in our packet, it's 21.53. So I wanna call out the 21.53 or smaller, in case it gets lost in
Correct.
translation somewhere.
all right.
So, not to exceed 21.53 square feet or smaller, if they wanna make it smaller.
21.53.
Square feet, that's kind of what y'all stated in the paperwork.
Okay. Should the sign need be replaced, it should meet the requirements of the sign code in place at that time or request another variance if applicable. That's all they had there. Any other, we just do have the one condition then, since we pointed out the sign. Okay. So, do we need to put in the, condition about illumination is not allowed?
You, basically, you're gonna deny that variance request. And it sounds like you will be approving the other variance request for the size. So your motion would be to approve the size, but approve, with the size with conditions X, Y, Z, and deny the, request, the application for internal illumination.
Okay.
That way you can get it in one motion.
Right, so, a second condition was request for internal illumination. All right, I'll read the motion, since we discussed this. Based on the findings previously See, discussed and voted on, I move that application number ZV 23-008 Wells Fargo sign variance. A request by Bobby Stevens of Triple A Sign Company Incorporated for variance pursuant to section Article 13 signs, Table 3-3, and section 13.8.3.p.ii.c.i.i.b for a sign that exceeds the maximum square footage allowed and internal illumination standards of the North Augusta Development Code to increase the maximum sign square footage be granted with the following conditions. You may have two. Number one, this variance will apply only to this property and the sign details indicating 21.53 square foot sign area as submitted. Should the sign need to be replaced, it should meet the requirements of the sign code in place at the time or request another variance if applicable. Condition two, the request for internal illumination is denied. All in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Thank you. You have a approved variance with a condition, important condition. All right, thank you.
I like internal illumination, but hey, that's not what the code says.
It looks better. All right, last one. Ooh. Okay, last one. ZB 23-009, a request by Tracy Turner for a variance from Article 3 zoning districts and Section 3.8.6.4.3 and 3.8.6.4.4 for the reconstruction of an existing home located in the Neighborhood Preservation Overlay District. This application affects approximately 0.36 acres of TPN 007-07-15-007, Zone OC Office Commercial, and within the NP Neighborhood Preservation Overlay District. What can you tell us about this?
Well, Mr. Chairman, first of all, a little bit about the Neighborhood Preservation District. What that intent is, because we're going to be talking about architectural features on this variance request. And it's the intent, and this is a portion of the purpose paragraph for this district, and this is an overlay. It is the intent of the Neighborhood Preservation Overlay Corridor District to maintain the residential appearance of existing structures and the residential setting of any building converted to a non-residential use, so that the converted dwelling will be compatible with neighboring residential property. To maintain residential character, lots shall not be developed or redeveloped solely for the purpose of providing parking. So that is, the nature is to keep the residential feel of the area. This is the parcel location. This will be a copy of the plat that you can see. It currently has 2 curb cuts onto George Avenue. All right. And I'm going to take you through a little story here. And this is what it looked like a few years ago before renovation started and work was stopped. You see the kind of bay window on one side. You have what I was always told was a picture window on the right, dormer windows upstairs, and the porch. Unfortunately, our building standards department issued a building permit and work started in progress, and one thing led to another, and there was a stop work order issued. When the permit was issued, they missed the neighborhood preservation requirements in the permitting process. This was shortly after I began. We have the building official and I have worked a lot closer now and work together to try to prevent this from happening again. So you can see the where the renovations were, and this is what the applicant would like to do with the home. The variance request is two of the sections. One section, 3.8.6.4.3, the slope of an existing roof shall be retained in any reconstruction or addition. The slopes of roofs on new buildings shall match the average of the roof pitches on buildings within the block. You know, and I don't know, to be quite honest, are you just raising the roof or are you changing the pitch? I could call it either way, but we're asking for a variance for that so we don't have that issue. The other one is the existing facade facing or visible from the street, including existing doors and windows, shall be retained. Well, that's kind of hard to do at this point, unless he can put back in what was taken out, or you could match basically the holes that are there and put windows back to match what came out. The applicant would like to build what's on the left. In this, the neighborhood preservation, you're limited to 2.5 stories. So this gives you an idea of the overall facade, what it looks like. He would like for it to be, and kind of gives you a side view section of what that second floor would be like upstairs. One of the things, and this is just a Tommy Paradise thing, is we need to, I know what the ordinance says. All right. And I look at these windows, and I look at these windows, and I believe the ones on the side are about the same size, which was typical in that era. And one thing that you may want to do, and I don't know how y'all are going to look at this, but if you were to maintain this right here, somewhere in the bedrooms on the upstairs, get a larger window like on these, on the side or somewhere, so that you have better emergency egress if there's a fire.
That's going to be required by code anyway.
Well, that keeps us out of that conflict, because this is a rehab, and you know, if you don't if you don't touch it, I don't think it changes. So that's what I'm just saying is I don't want to get the conflict between the zoning ordinance saying one thing and the building code saying something
But we
different.
can debate this all day long. That part of that house was probably touched before he bought it and before this ordinance is, and some cheap vinyl ass windows were replaced in there, and he now gets it by this code, and it tells him he's got to maintain those windows, which weren't original from the get-go, which was the intent of the code.
I'm not gonna disagree with you on that.
But at the same,
And at the same time, I have been asked, you mean have to keep energy inefficient windows in there?
but there's a big lawsuit going on in Charleston that they had strict on all those houses down there, that they had to keep original you can tear down almost the whole house, but you had to have one wall, and like the windows have to stay, and you have to rebuild the windows. It was costing $20,000 for new windows, but it was costing $40-something thousand to refurbish the existing. There's a lawsuit that says now they can replace them windows with same looks,
Exactly.
but not, they can go back with new windows.
And I'm not gonna disagree with you there either. I'm on board with you because you have some energy and efficiency. And, you know, working with the Historic Preservation Commission in my previous employ, that's what we did. You replaced with wooden, like materials, but you replaced with energy efficiency, the muttons, the, you know, stuff that looked alike.
And as you see, that several of the houses have done that. Some new houses have been built on Georgia Avenue. And there's several houses that are starting to pop up for sale. But they'll never sell if we got the main, I'm on my soapbox right now. You know, so I just, okay. All right, continue.
That's it for me. I think the applicant can take it from here. You know, the one thing, regardless of how y'all rule on this, you know, I'd like to see some larger windows on the side for emergency egress, if y'all would be willing to
All
grant
right,
that.
one other question. It says 2.5 stories
Yes.
is the max. What is this considered?
Right now, the basement isn't finished. So
But at the same
it's a-
time, that's part of their original house.
It's a story and a half right now.
So a story and a half, so if he adds a top story, so we're 2.5, so he's legal.
If you approve the change in the windows and the facade, and you approve the
Roof line.
roof line, you're absolutely correct, and that's why we're here, because of those reasons.
Go ahead.
I think you know the better questions than I do. You're saying that the historic preservation requirement of I guess the zoning law says that the face of the building has to retain its same look or same structural.
Well, what it says, and was going back to my previous employment where there was a historic preservation commission, but what says in our code, the existing facade facing or visible from the street, including the existing doors and windows, shall be retained.
But the point in the goal of this whole overlay is to maintain a residential look, right?
Correct.
But if this house burned down to the ground,
Yes.
bulldoze it over and start over, it needs to just maintain some character of whatever house is on the street.
We would look at the, what the code required for a new build. Yeah, there's some, characteristics that would have to fit in with the neighboring along that way.
But at the same time, you got this house with a 412 pitch roof, and you got this one over here with a 912, and then you go down to the Knox house that's got some domes and some half-rolled windows, and so where do you draw the line?
You would, it actually says, I think, the average roof pitch along the block that it's on.
So what's the average of this area?
I don't know.
We're just kind of looking at one of the, you know, there's a 512 pitch here, just kind of driving by, and there's 612, and this one's probably no bigger than a 612 or a 712. So I mean, this roof line's in keeping.
Okay. Does it, any more questions for Tommy?
But from the city's point of view, this is what the applicant would like for the building to look like. And by the code, excuse me, we needed to get it back to this. And that's why we're here tonight.
So that picture doesn't look like a residence?
It looks like a residence, but it doesn't look like that. And the code says it has, you can't change the facade. So this is changing the facade. So that's why he needs a variance, so that he can change the facade.
All right, now what about the houses down the street across the way, which I know has nothing to do with this, and it's on a different block and all that? One was rebuilt, and one was new construction altogether. I think the two pictures that he has in here, it's just showing the two-story
Yep.
houses.
I'm not familiar with those.
Okay.
We ready for the applicant? Does the applicant want to come speak, please? Swear you in. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. State your name and address, please.
My name is Tracy Turner. My address is 301 Jackson Avenue, North Augusta, South Carolina.
Thank
So, just as Mr. Paradise said, I bought this house 2 years ago. The plans were totally different, actually, than ones that were approved by the city. It was actually a 3-story house with a rooftop deck. So I bought this house in May. We started demolition we submitted our building permit in June, started rehab in July. We demoed, as you see in those pictures, all the interior walls, even the supporting beams for that for the middle piece of the house was taken down. We got a stop work order. The house is kind of set for almost 2 years now. So working with Mr. Paradise, he's been we've been one-on-one for a few times trying to make this work. We removed the 3rd floor, the architects and the city of North Augusta went back and forth about building code, trying to define the 2.5 versus 3 stories, trying to just get this completed. I actually purchased this 2 years ago for my mom. I was like, well, I just want to get this done. So with the architects that we had, we removed the 3rd floor, we removed the deck, and we just tried to keep it very energy efficient, where that the airflow with the windows would work good for the new design. Those pictures that I did add to the application does kind of put into mind what the vision is for this house, for the completion. Yes, sir. Thank you. With the windows upstairs. Now, 1005 Georgia, the house in question, that is the largest pitch roof in that area on Georgia Avenue. There's no other house like that. So with taking that, right now, as Mr. Paradise said, trying to rebuild this house to what was there before, and just as Mr. Newman mentioned, the vinyl windows are very cheap windows. Yeah, not that that is a consideration for variance, but the pitch roof, according to my architect, does not fit the standards for trying to become energy efficient and air circulation for the home. So that's all I have.
Is the energy, is this trying to become a net zero home or something like that, or is it just net zero like?
So we were going to do some solar panels on one part of the roof, change all the windows. We increased the size of the upstairs roof, of the upstairs windows. They're all smaller, and tried to put more light in the front of the house. So those 2 small windows that you see on the top floor, they're like in a, can you go back to the houses, the first, how it used to look?
This one?
No, one more.
Okay.
The front of the old, yes. So those 2 windows there are actually in a kind of like a crawl space. So by shortening the pitch, and just to answer your question, the height of the highest pitch is where we are. So the building itself does not increase in size. It's just the pitch of the roof decreases. So where those 2, I don't know the proper name for them, but where those 2 windows are now, that's kind of where the roof stops then, and the current design, and then windows come in to kind of bring in light and air to kind of go back from the front to the back of the house.
Is this gonna be single family or is it a duplex?
It's a single family. It's a primary residence for my mother.
So basically what you're saying, and I can understand that, these two dormer windows that are there right now aren't giving enough natural illumination to that particular story to really be useful in the way you want to reconfigure the house.
Yes, sir. And also, I mean, that's part of variance, but by bringing it straight up, I actually am able to get a more living space on the second floor. That the way the pitch is now, it takes up a lot of the living space on the second floor. And the house sits on a hill with Georgia. So with the pitch of the roof, plus where it currently sits, with the water, the previous owner actually dug out the basement himself because he was having flood issues to double the retaining wall in the basement. So that would also help eliminate some of the water that's coming in from the front and have it like an equal load instead of just it all coming down in the front. And then also that water that comes from the right of the, if you're looking at the house to the left of the house, down from like the hill where the new police station is going.
Mr. Burkhalter, if I may, what you mentioned about light, just for reference, the code in 3.8.6.4.2 says not less than 40% of the front facade of new buildings shall include doors or windows. So if this is a new building, he'd have to put 40% doors or windows in there. And I just mentioned that because, you know, you're changing, but that's still that character.
You can even add a dormer because of the pitch of the shed that comes over the front stoop is so high, it would conflict. You couldn't even put a third dormer in there. So, the way it is right now.
The application reference fire damage.
Yes, in the rear of the property. Go to that second page. The next one. Right there. So above, I didn't realize it until we removed that second floor is burnt out by between those two windows.
So that influences your design?
Well, to the point that where we are now, we can't go back. I mean, we would basically have to, we have to demo the house. We have to demo it, at least, not the house, the wood parts, the brick, all the brick stays. But it has to be demoed. The exterior wood does not even fit structural. Those are 2x6s. I'm trying to quote this. I think the current code is 2.8, 2.16s. I'm not sure, but the current exterior 2x6s do not support the current load for the roof. When we received the permit from the city of North Augusta, we went straight in demoing everything. I didn't know we were going to get stopped. And when we got stopped, you know, and I was telling Mr. Paradise, I mean, at the worst, I mean, in the least, I just wanted to demo the wood piece, remove the vinyl windows until we got a resolution. Because it's, you know, when we started, a lot of the black vinyl on the exterior has went into my neighbor's yard, into the both sides of the neighbors. The rear of the property is causing a washout in the surrounding other neighbors. They've been pretty understanding of the process, but I mean, it's been an eyesore for 2 years. So we're just trying our best to kind of come back with a structure that we thought would be what a downtown Georgia Avenue house would look like.
So in theory, the front of the, and you got the picture, all the windows, but the front of the house is gonna look like the back of the house. If you minus the bottom floor, but his roof line on the back side's pretty much similar to what the front side's gonna be. It's just if you take off right above that garage door, just take that as grade. Just put all those windows, that's gonna what the house will be, with all fresh brick, that's what the house is gonna be.
That's correct.
And so he already has it on the back side. He just wants to put it on the front side. So if you look, if you take the side view, that's just taking that wall up. The pitch will change a little bit. The center line will go over to Georgia Avenue just a little bit. I mean, the back pitch pretty much stays the same. Just gets centered a little bit.
So,
I guess my biggest question is, based on the zoning, based on the, I don't know whether it's based on the zoning or the building regulations, what can we vary? What, are we varying by saying that the overlay doesn't apply? Or, I mean, the neighborhood preservation doesn't apply? Or are we just?
You would be there's these two sections here. You would be varying those two sections to allow the construction. If you want to approve it, this would kind of be my suggestion is you vary these two sections on the condition that renovations are as conceptually shown on the exhibits. So that, this is, what you approve is what you get, and that's nothing against Mr. Turner. That's the normal way I always try to tie it in. So, I think that's where the variance is. Where staff's problem is we've got these two things right here that says, this is what you're supposed to do. So y'all are the body that can grant relief from that. And that's why we're here.
regarding the windows in the front, what's your issue of going back to looking something similar to what, as far as, I guess, reducing the number of windows?
No, I mean, he's,
Well-
as far as looks, compared to, if you go back to the original picture,
Let me
keep
go
going
back.
that one, there's two different windows in the dormers to start with.
Yeah,
You got a 6x6 on one side, and you got a no glass on the, zero divided light on the other. And then you've got, I mean, so it's already a hodgepodge going in there. So, I mean, it's
you can't look like this.
correct. And I think the door that's on there's got bars on it. No offense, But, I mean, sticking with his rendering shows a 6/6 window, which is the divided lights. 6 divided lights on top of each one. I mean, if you keep it in keeping with that, if you go down the street, you're gonna have one that's gonna be 3/1, 6/6, 2/2. But if we're basing ours off of what this looks like, there's a hodgepodge of windows right there, so what do? We throw a dart and pick the window we're supposed to let them look like? If you look at most of the windows, they're gonna be 6x6 if you walk up and down the street. And I think that's what he shows in his.
He
his
shows
rendering.
6/0.
He shows 6/6.
What, you have any issue with the larger windows as Mr. Paradise requested?
No.
He already showed.
I think those would
They're already
fit.
in there.
Oh, they're
On the
already
new
in
drawings,
there.
Those, I can tell right there, they're already in.
So that doesn't need to be a condition if you, okay.
And he's got his stoop similar to what's on there. It's just a little small, it looks like, but the stoop is still there. So let's hear from the public. Let's see
All right,
what
yeah,
they say.
okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Turner.
All right, so I'll start to open the public hearing. Anybody want to speak for or against this project? Okay, thanks for hanging there with us.
I just had a
Oh,
couple
I gotta
questions.
swear you in again. Swear to tell
Oh.
the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, swear
I
to
do.
God. All right, State your
Carl-
name and address again.
Carl Purvis, 909 Georgia Avenue. Yeah, I only had questions about it because I'd seen the sign and I knew that the construction had stopped on it. I figured they shut you down for some reason. I didn't know why. But, because they were going at it pretty hard to start with. But, I guess it looks like to me all you're doing is raising the roof in the front, right? And so from where those dormers are now, is that gonna be brick up to that roof or is that gonna be something else? I would like to brick it on up. Yeah, like I said, I mainly wanted to, make sure that, I came down here one day last week and I asked what the variance was about. And basically they just said, well, they just wanna change some windows. Okay, and then they said, well, I said, is it gonna be any kind of business or is it gonna be a single family residence? And I was told it'd be a single family residence. And I just want to verify that, you know, that's on the record, that's what we're saying. When I saw that retaining wall you got that goes down the side and all the way around the back, it looked like to me somebody fixed to put a parking lot in there, you know. But I guess it's just because of the drainage problems you got. Yes, good. Because it just like it was put up for a parking lot or something. And I just want to make sure that on the record it was single family residence.
That's what he said.
Because I do live right down the street and I know the neighbors and all, we come there for the, you know, for the old town look and that's what we wanted. And I'm sure that the city, you know, you don't have a lot of an old town here, but, you know, from Buena Vista up to Martintown Road, if you can maintain that, I know there's all, you know, some office stuff in there. But I did have a question. I was just sitting there thinking when you said this about the preservation zone or whatever it is. Is there a body that makes those determinations that says? I think seemed like when I bought my house many years ago, there was a group that came up there and said, I think it was some old town group, you know, that you kind of went to. This was many years ago. That kind of said what you could do and what you couldn't do, and I was just wondering if since you've got this zoned a certain way for preservation, historic preservation, is there a group that would come in and make these decisions, you know? And I don't have a problem with this. I'm just saying, if somebody want to do something in the future, who makes that call? That it's
In North Augusta, it's all written out in the code, and you have to follow the code as far as the design and stuff, and that keeps you from having to do public hearings and discretionary, you know, what different board members may feel and stuff. That's just like this one. This is what the code says, that he can't change the facade, so if he needs to change the facade, he gets a variance from that section of the development code, and that's why we're here.
that's the questions I had.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I do.
State your name and address.
David Williamson. I'm 111 East Arlington. I have the property directly behind the house. And we've been watching this go on for 2 years, however long it's been. And I see nothing wrong with, I understand the code and everything, but I see nothing wrong with the changes that he's proposing. With the upgrading of stuff that's been going on with Georgia Avenue, I think that'd be a perfect fit. And only thing I would add is the elephant in the room is North Augusta gave him the permits to start with, and then they come in and cut it off, and we wouldn't have been here if somebody had done due diligence to start with.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? There's nobody left. All right, I'll close the public hearing. And we'll start consideration. And again, I will choose not to read all 10 requirements again. You've heard them enough tonight. So anyway, we'll go right into the questioning. And again, where this is for a variance for the facade, to change the facade and roof slope. Number one, question one, an unnecessary hardship exists. The applicant states that the elevations and plans have been provided to the city of North Augusta to reconstruct the existing home located at 1005 Georgia Avenue. The applicants purchased the home as a primary residence for his mother, and the existing design has fire damage and does not structurally support the new design, which requires a complete demolition of the second floor. The proposed floor plan decreases the existing roof to gain full usable space of the second floor, and adds 3 larger windows for the first and second floor. The applicant states that the development code currently prevents replacing windows and doors. It also states the slope of existing roof shall be retained in any reconstruction or addition. Staff notes that section 3.8.6.4.3 of the development code states the slope of an existing roof shall be retained in any reconstruction or addition. Slopes of roofs on new buildings shall match the average of the roof pitches on buildings within the block. 3.8.6.4.4 of the code states the existing facade facing or visible from the street, including existing doors and windows, shall be retained. What are your thoughts?
I say there's a hardship exists.
I would agree. I agree with that also. There's a hardship in, meeting the code. And so one question I had, so when you started the original plan, this is not the original plan. So in the original plan is what you got.
This is a compromise. I mean, he was gonna have a 3-story
Yeah,
party
okay.
deck, you know, mama's gonna be living good.
And you got approval for that, is that right? Okay. All right. So I'm in agreement it's a hardship exists. So we're good with question 1. Number 2, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. The applicant states that the proposed design captures the neighborhood style for the downtown area and historical elevations. The new design will add value to other home properties and may encourage other property owners to make some upgrades to their home as well. Georgia Avenue is a major roadway for downtown, and the houses on the street should be able to be restored to display the beauty for the downtown area.
I'm good with that.
I'm okay with that. Number 3, the conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. The applicant states that the homes in the surrounding area do not have such sloped roofs and do not take in concept of renewable energy management of stormwater retention. Staff notes that the surrounding properties do not have a roof with a slope as great as the subject property's residence. So if you're one of the higher ones, you're going to be closer to the average, I would think.
I'm good.
So I'm good with question 3. Y'all good?
Yes.
Question 4. Because of the conditions, the application of this chapter to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. And the applicant states that the current code states that the existing roof, windows, and doors must be maintained. For the current design of the home, it would prevent true ventilation through the home and natural light to enter the home. The proposed design makes improvements to the delivery of clean air and better positioning support for solar energy panels.
I'm good with that, but on the solar panels, is he gonna have to come back to the?
He'll need a permit from that, and we'll need to review that
Yeah.
before he gets to the solar panels.
Okay.
I don't know if that district allows him or not, to be quite honest with you.
Thought I saw him on another house on Georgia Avenue.
Yeah, it might be. That's something I need to research.
I had the same question. I said,
Steve.
oh, there's one all right there.
Okay.
Wouldn't be the first one.
It'll be better than what's there now.
Yes, sir.
So y'all good with question 4?
Yes.
I'm good too. The authorization of a variance will not be a substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Harm to the character of the district may include structures that are significantly out of scale and the creation of potential for the creation of excessive noise, light, traffic, or incompatible late night activity. The applicant states that the home design will remain true to surrounding homes. Pictures have been supplied to compare the other homes in the neighborhood. Their footprint remains in the center of the lot, retaining the existing buffers between the adjacent homes. A new concept has been shown to neighbors, and all are excited with the proposed designs to 2005 Georgia Avenue. Overall, the design will increase property value, health, safety, and beautify the current area. And it looks like a residence. It may have, you know, the windows may be different, but it looks like a residence to me, and he intends it to be a single-family residence. So I'm good with 5. Y'all good? Question 6 is NA. That's signs. We're not doing signs. Question 7, the Board of Zoning Appeals may not grant a variance, the effect of which would be to allow the establishment of use not otherwise permitted in the zoning districts. Notes say single-family residents are allowed in the OC office commercial zoning district. B, to extend physically a non-conforming use of land. Notes say the variance does not extend a physically non-conforming use of the land. And C, to change zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. Notes state the application does not propose a change to the zoning district boundaries. So we'll give a 7. Question 8, if the unnecessary hardship is self-imposed by the applicant, the variance should not be granted. Notes say the applicant states the hardship is created by the restrictions of the NP Neighborhood Preservation Overlay District. I agree with that. Also, you got a structure with fire damage you got to deal with too. So. All right, question, I'm good with 8 too. Question 9, the fact that property may be utilized more properly should a variance be granted shall not be considered grounds for a variance. Staff notes that the fact that the property may be utilized more properly is not the primary purpose of the request. If you're building in energy efficiency. So, I'm good with 9. All right. Item 10, in granting a variance, the Board of Zoning Appeals may attach to it such conditions regarding the location, character, or other features of the proposed building structure or used as the board may consider advisable to promote the public health, safety, or general welfare. One note here, this variance, if granted, will apply only to this property in the architectural construction drawings as submitted. Now, does that statement capture what you just suggested?
Well, I have some questions.
Okay.
Yes and no. I've got some questions on that. Whenever we say as conceptually shown here, it's brick. I'll just think of how construction projects go. And so if he wanted to, gets into the project and for whatever reason, he needs to change it to a different exterior material, say vinyl siding or hardy board, or, you know, would that be allowable for y'all? Would that meet the intent of the variance that y'all grant? Okay. I would, yeah, I would put no vinyl siding in there,
Yeah,
but
because-
that, and a little wiggle room for me so that if there's a need to change the exterior wall covering, the hardy board, you know, it's there. Yeah.
Because the issue is gonna be, you know, I don't know when that house was built, but you can't find those bricks.
That's exactly what I was
You won't be able to-
thinking.
You won't be able to match the brick, that's for sure.
And so I'm sitting here thinking, okay, he's gonna really need to tear all the brick off the side, the brick veneer off, and then build it back.
Yeah,
Yeah, you could.
same size.
Yeah. But you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
I don't want him to have to come back. Right. I understand that too. Well,
Please.
I don't know that we need to get into specifying.
I
color.
I was just while we're talking.
So,
Okay,
is that a
so-
second and third condition, or,
Yes, sir.
so,
I think so. if that's acceptable to y'all. I think y'all understand where I'm coming
And then
from.
you've got he's got to go through the landscaping process as well.
Right.
Because of almost a new
Yeah, well, the next process for him to go is through building standards, to get the building permit. We'll get the order written up and get Mr. Skaggs to sign it, but,
Yeah, if we can get that, then I've got questions off the record.
excuse me?
I got questions off the record.
Just let's cut the video off and,
All right, so we said no vinyl siding.
But he can use a hardy, like cement board, like product.
so basically either brick or cement board.
Correct. And that's what the ones down the street are.
So that vinyl siding, it would be a brick substitute, would not, or the hardy board would be a brick
Yeah,
substitute.
that's cement and hardy board would be.
Okay, I think I got it. All right, so we've answered in the affirmative for all 10. So I'm ready to read the motion then. Based on the findings previously discussed and voted on, I move that application number ZV 23-009, 1005 Georgia Avenue variance, a request by Tracy Turner for a variance pursuant to section 3.8.6.4.3 and section 3.8.6.4.4, building design for the neighborhood preservation corridor overlay district of the North Augusta Development Code to change the roof slope and facade, be granted with the following conditions. We have 3. Number 1, this variance will apply only to this property and the architectural construction drawings as submitted. Number 2, exterior facade shall not utilize vinyl siding. Number 3, a hardy board-like product is allowed as a brick facade substitute.
All right, one quick question. Do we need, if he decides to change to hardy, does he need to come and just run it past you?
Right, and I'll talk to Mark about that too. Yeah, if he'll just let me know, that way I can check the box and move on.
So do we need to put that in there, that any exterior changes need to be, at the, thought back? I don't wanna get.
Yeah, but that would be a good catch-all. I think we've got a pretty good working relationship, Mr. Turner and I, and I don't think that would be a problem. I think that, you know, as long as we're staying like this, you know, I think I've got the direction from y'all that I know. I've kind of got my marching orders, so to speak.
So we don't need a
That
4th.
understands.
Okay.
You just know what you need to do, right? Okay.
All right. So, we got a motion. Second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. You got your variance, finally. Congratulations. Thanks for waiting through all this. Okay. Is that all we have? That is it. Any other business?